Welcome to Melody Myths, where magical adventures come alive. Tonight's story is about a cheerful little girl named Emily, who discovers a secret world hiding under her bed. A world full of tiny creatures who love socks more than anything. But why do they keep taking them, and how will Emily solve this mystery? Let us find out together in Emily and the Sock Monster. Emily was a cheerful little girl who loved painting, reading, and playing with her toys. But there was one problem: she always had her socks kept disappearing. Every morning, when she tried to find a matching pair, one sock would be gone. She would look under the bed, inside drawers, and even in the laundry basket. Still, no luck. It was a mystery that made her scratch her head in confusion. Soon, Emily's room had a pile of odd socks in every color and size. Blue with stripes, pink with stars, yellow with polka dots, each one missing its partner. Her mom laughed and said, "Maybe the washing machine eats them." Emily giggled but wasn't satisfied with that answer. She was sure something else was going on. And she was determined to find out. One night, while brushing her teeth, Emily heard a faint giggle coming from under her bed. She froze for a moment and listened carefully. Then came a tiny rustling sound, like fabric being dragged across the floor. Emily's heart raced with curiosity. Could it be connected to her missing socks? She decided to stay awake to find out. Emily had an idea. She placed her favorite pair of rainbow socks in the middle of the room. Then she hid behind her toy chest, trying hard not to sneeze. The room was silent, except for the ticking of her clock. Minutes passed, and her eyes grew heavy. Suddenly, a small shadow moved across the floor. Emily held her breath. Out from under the bed crept a tiny, fuzzy creature. It had bright button eyes, a round belly, and arms made of socks. Its nose wiggled as it sniffed the rainbow socks. Emily's eyes widened in wonder. This was no ordinary creature, it was a sock monster. With a quick leap, it grabbed a sock and giggled. Emily jumped out of her hiding spot. "Stop right there!" Emily shouted. The sock monster squealed in surprise, dropping the sock. Its button eyes blinked nervously, and it backed toward the bed. "Why are you stealing my socks?" Emily asked. The monster twisted its tiny arms and looked embarrassed. Finally, it spoke in a squeaky voice, "I don't steal them. I borrow them." Emily tilted her head curiously. The sock monster explained that it lived in a hidden world under Emily's bed. Socks were like treasures in its world. They could be turned into blankets, pillows, or even clothes. "But you never return them," Emily said, folding her arms. The little creature frowned. "I didn't know you needed them back." Its ears drooped sadly. Emily softened her voice and smiled. To Emily's surprise, the monster invited her to visit its world. With a snap of its sock-covered fingers, a glowing doorway opened beneath the bed. Emily crawled inside, her heart thumping with excitement. She found herself in a magical land where socks floated in the air like balloons. Sock bridges stretched across rivers, and sock houses lined the streets. Emily gasped in amazement. All around, tiny sock monsters bustled about, carrying mismatched socks on their heads. Some were sewing them into capes, while others made sock swings for their children. It was the most colorful, wiggly world Emily had ever seen. The sock monsters cheered when they saw her. "A human friend!" they cried. Emily felt both shy and delighted at the warm welcome. At the center of the land stood a grand castle made entirely of golden socks. Inside lived the Sock Queen, a tall, majestic monster with sparkling sock robes. She greeted Emily kindly. "Thank you for visiting our land," the Queen said. Emily bowed politely, remembering her manners. But I must ask, Emily said bravely, why do you take our socks? The Sock Queen explained that socks were magical. When paired together, they created warmth and happiness for the sock monster's world. But when you take too many, we humans can't find ours, Emily pointed out. The Queen frowned thoughtfully. You are right, child. We never meant to cause trouble. The other sock monsters nodded in agreement, looking guilty. Emily thought hard. Then she clapped her hands. What if we share, she suggested. You can have old socks that no one uses anymore. That way, we won't lose our favorite pairs. The Sock Queen's eyes lit up. That is a wonderful idea, wise child. The sock monsters cheered loudly. The room filled with giggles and sock-shaped confetti floating in the air. To celebrate their new friendship, the sock monsters threw a party. They hung colorful socks as decorations, and sock balloons bobbed in the air. There was sock cake with frosting and sock-shaped cookies. Emily laughed so hard her cheeks hurt. She even learned to dance the sock shuffle, a silly monster dance that made her spin in circles. It was the happiest night. Before Emily left, the Sock Queen gave her a special pair of magical socks. They shimmered with rainbow colors and never got lost. These will always remind you of us, the Queen said. Emily hugged her tightly. She promised to bring old socks from her home to share with the monsters. The sock monster who first met her waved goodbye excitedly. Emily crawled back through the glowing doorway and found herself in her own room. Everything looked the same, except her pile of odd socks was gone. In its place was a neat stack of matching pairs, folded perfectly. She gasped in delight. The sock monsters had kept their promise already. Emily slipped on her magical rainbow socks and grinned. The next morning, Emily's mom peeked into her room. Wow, it's so tidy! She exclaimed. Emily smiled mysteriously. She couldn't explain the truth after all. Who would believe in sock monsters? But she knew her secret was safe. She also noticed that her laundry basket now had fewer missing socks. Emily winked to herself. The plan was working perfectly. Every weekend, Emily gathered old socks that were too small or too worn out. She placed them neatly under her bed at night. By morning, they were gone, whisked away to the sock world. In return, her favorite socks always stayed together. It became a fun little routine, almost like a secret game between her and the sock monsters. Emily realized that sharing brought happiness not just to her, but to others too. She loved knowing that her old socks were being turned into useful things for the sock monsters. It made her feel generous and proud. Sometimes, she even decorated the socks with glitter before leaving them out. That way, the sock monsters received them as sparkling surprises. From time to time, the little sock monster who first met Emily would peek out at night. They whispered about new sock inventions like sock umbrellas and sock boats. Emily laughed at every silly story. She even gave the monster a name, Button, because of its shiny button eyes. Button became one of Emily's closest secret friends. No longer did Emily cry about lost socks. Instead, she enjoyed her colorful collection, knowing every pair was safe. And whenever she saw a lonely sock, she smiled instead of frowning. She knew it wasn't lost, it was just on its way to a new home. The sock mystery was no longer a problem, but a magical adventure. Emily learned that sometimes problems have surprising solutions. Instead of being angry about missing socks, she found a way to share and make friends. The sock monsters weren't bad, they just needed help. And by listening and being kind, Emily discovered a whole new world. She knew she would never forget her journey. It had changed her forever. The Sock Queen's magical socks became Emily's favorite. Every time she wore them, they glowed softly, reminding her of her promise to share. And whenever she skipped or danced, she felt like she was doing the sock shuffle again. Her heart was full of joy. She often whispered, "Thank you, sock monsters," before bedtime. Emily decided to keep the sock monster world a secret. It was her own magical adventure, tucked away safely in her heart. But sometimes, when her friends complained about losing socks, she giggled quietly. She wished she could tell them the truth. Instead, she just said, "Maybe your socks are having their own adventure too." That made her laugh inside. One night, Button appeared for a final goodbye. "We won't come as often," he explained, "because we have plenty of socks now." Emily felt a little sad, but she understood. Button handed her a tiny sock crown made of silver thread. "For the human who saved our world," he said proudly. Emily wore it on her head, feeling like a princess. Emily never forgot the sock monsters or the lessons they taught her. Her socks stayed safe, her room was neater, and her heart was brighter. Whenever she wore her rainbow socks, she remembered the magical land beneath her bed. And whenever she found an odd sock, she smiled knowingly. For she knew somewhere, far away, a sock monster was smiling too. And that's how Emily turned a problem into a friendship. She learned that sharing and kindness can turn mysteries into magical adventures. From that day on, her socks were never truly lost, they were part of something wonderful. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Melody Myths for more bedtime tales filled with magic and fun. Sweet dreams, little adventurers, until our next story.